My art is my soul. My soul is my heart. This is my mission. This is why I'm here in this world. To do art, to expand the message of awakening to people, to the world. When I'm not doing my art, I'm just a mask, as everybody in this world. We are just masks.
Our song. We give you warm greetings once again.
Okay. I'm Jasmine Contor Dawson, and I'm talking to all the followers of the Law of One. And we're going to talk about how I got initiated into this whole venue that I do and that is done through me. And it started when I was very young. I was probably 3 or 4, and I started running away from home. And it was kind of curious. My mother would be frantic, and I would be just walk down the street, just leave the house and go away. And my mother would come madly searching after me, and I would say, well, Ma, I'm not alone. I'm not alone. I have all my friends are with me. My friends are here. They're right here next to me. I'm not lost. I know where I am. And she would drag me back home, and you know, and then I would be corralled in the backyard for a while. But every once in a while I would escape, and I would assure her every time that I wasn't alone. I had friends with me, and I was perfectly safe. Everything was fine. And then I realized after a little while that these were friends that I could see, but other people couldn't see them. And they were like lights. They were like balls or shimmers of rainbow lights. There were so many different colors in these people that there are colors in there that I can't, there's no word for the colors. Okay, so the culmination of the whole thing happened when I was at Sunday school, as a matter of fact, and I was sitting in my Sunday school class, and the door was open because it was summertime, and I was looking out into the yard, and my people were out there, and they were signaling to me to come on out and be with them. And so I just got right up out of the middle of my Sunday school class, and I walked out the door, which was open because of the weather. In those days, they didn't have air conditioning, so we had doors open. Anyway, I went out, and I was playing with these people. I was just running around, and for some reason this day they were saying that we were going to do a new game, not just take a walk together. We're going to play a new game. It was going to be Splash the Sun. We were going to splash the sun. I said, "Hey, I'm ready. I can splash the sun. Well, I'm ready for that." So they started throwing these balls of sunlight at me, and you would throw it, and they would hit you, and there was this exhilarating feeling that went through your whole body, okay? And it with all the colors in it, it's like it sparkled along your skin everywhere and out the top of your head. And there were all of these marvelously wonderful colors of, well, you can't describe it, but it was colors. And it was fun. It felt really great. Okay, and so then they were telling me, just reach out and grab a ball of sunlight and you try to splash us with the sun. Well, I could get one. I could get a ball of sunlight and throw it, but very seldom could I, actually catch them. And there was laughing, and, when you're 4 years old, you're relating to an entity on a 3 or 4 year old level. So it was lots of giggles and laughs. But I found that after that had happened, after that episode, and there were several of those. There were several of those that happened. I felt different. I thought about things differently, and I perceived things differently. And when I would see people, they had different colors. They had different dimensions of depth. I guess that's the best word. Depth to their actual physical being. Okay. Some of them were outlined in light, what people call an aura. Okay. And some were just, you look at a person and you would just see one color, or a color that switched from one color to the next color to the next color. I had a lot of there were a lot of oranges, a lot of people with a lot of orange and red in those days, which was good. I love orange and red. But that's how it very first started progressing. And I just started thinking about things differently. And the light bulb people, actually, they looked like, they could change shape. They went from circular basketball size shapes to long, tall, oval shape. I mean, they could stretch. It just depended upon what was going on at the moment, and who was evading who, and who was throwing light balls at the other guy. So they were multicolored. They were undescribable. They were so many colors and changing colors, but mostly I remember that it was the dominant colors that I could see with my own eyes were like a pink gold rainbow color. It was, it was pink gold. They were so vibrant and pulsing. So that's what the rainbow people, I call them rainbow people because they change colors all the time. That's what they look like. And then that's when I was really small, but that's when I was really little. Okay. After my experience with the rainbow people when I was really young, the next actual experience that I had was when I was in grammar school. It's probably fourth or fifth grade, and I was in California, actually. We had just moved to California, and we had an accident, and two kids were running down the hallway, and one of them was running in one direction, and the other guy was coming perpendicular down the other corridor, and they weren't supposed to be running, of course. We're not supposed to run the halls, but they smacked into each other and just knocked each other out. Both of them fell down, heads banged, kids hurt. And in our science class, our teacher was saying, you know, this is a good example of the physics concept that two things, two objects, same size, same mass, can't be in the same place at the same time. And I'm hearing in my head, that's not right. Two things of same mass, same size can be in the same place at the same time. And so this started happening to me quite regularly. And when I was in grammar school, I had terrible time with math. Not math, I'm sorry, arithmetic. It was just awful because in my head, on paper, you're going 2 and 2 is 4, 3 times 6 is, however it is, I can't even multiply, 24. But the odd numbers, to me, were the balanced numbers, were the even numbers. So in my head, I'm hearing all the time, 2 and 2 is 5, 1 and 1 is 3, 4 and 4 is 9, and I couldn't make that transfer from what we calculate in the normal calculations. Are 4 and 4 is 8, 2 and 2 is 4. I always had that extra number in there, and finally I was hearing later on, I began to understand that there's always a fulcrum, there's always a balance point, like a teeter-totter. Okay, if you have an equal number or an equal weight on this side, an equal weight on this side, there has to be a fulcrum in the middle that balances out these two weights. So that is the concept that I was being given, not the actual, I think, numerical calculation, but the fact that there was always, in any duality, there was always a fulcrum point that that duality had to rest on in order to be stable. So that was the next experience I had. I had several of those in my math classes. Then within that period between grammar school and high school and a couple of years in college, there was a big gap where I think I shut down because of cultural issues or acceptance, you know, when you're growing up, your adolescent issues and all of that. There was a time when I just shut all this down because I didn't want to seem like a weird person. That's pretty funny. A weird person.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, in 1979, my mother went to visit my Aunt June, and my Aunt June, both of them were into metaphysics and had been into metaphysics for years. It's psychology and metaphysics. And so my Aunt June took my mother to a bookstore, and they went to this bookstore, and they were walking along looking at the various titles of books, and this book jumped off the shelf at them, and it was pretty unusual. Just fell off the shelf into my Aunt June's hands. They took it home, they read it. It was, you know, they were all inspired by this book that they had gotten, and so they went back to the bookstore the next day so that they could buy another couple of copies. And the bookstore didn't have the book. They said they had never stored the book. They never stocked it. They didn't have it in stock. Anyway, when they got home, it was a book about a person who was contacting an entity through a Ouija board. Now everybody has woo about Ouija boards and getting into bad stuff, but that was how my Aunt June and my mom first started working the Ouija board. And the Ouija board told them when they were working the Ouija board, get Jasmine because we can speak through her. Okay, and my mother called, you know, we called all the time on the phone from Florida. And she said, oh, I've got something. I'm so excited. I can hardly wait to get home and tell you all about it. I said, well, tell me on the phone. She says, no. I have to wait till I get home. Anyway, at the end of the vacation in 2 or 3 weeks or whatever it was. So she came home. She told me the whole thing. I went, oh, no, halt, stop. I put on the brakes. I said, no, this is not, no, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing it. And my mother, being who she was, a very forceful, you might say, woman, she just kept picking at me and picking at me and picking at me. Just try it. Just try it. Just try it. If you don't, you know, if it doesn't work, that's fine. But just try it. Just, you know, it'll be all right. Just try it. And she just picked at me and chunked at me, you know, like chipping me with a hammer, like somebody sculpting, you know, in marble or something. Just chip. So finally I gave up and I said, okay, I'll try it. So I tried it, and it was very strange because all of a sudden, you know, the silly planchette, so I barely was having my fingers on the planchette at all. If you know about a Ouija board, and the planchette is the guider, all that stuff. Anyway, And it just started going like gangbusters with hardly, I was hardly even touching the thing at all. And after a while, it was, I didn't need the planchette. I wore out a Ouija board. I made my own Ouija board with my own symbols on it and everything, with the regular standard Ouija board symbols, but I alternated some things for my own use. And I didn't need the planchette anymore. I just, you know, my hand would just go to the letters, and my mother would write it down letter by letter and try to break the words in half and figure out what the letters were, what all the letters were saying. And then after a while, it was probably maybe 6 months or so, I started hearing what was going to be said. I knew in my head what the board was going to spell out. And so, of course, my mother started thinking, she says, well, just say it out loud. Just say it out loud. And I said, no, I don't trust this. I don't trust it. If they don't spell it out, I'm not going to trust what I'm hearing in my head. So finally, she hassled me until I said through the Ouija board, I said, you tell him. I said, okay, if you want to speak through me, then you have to tell me a way so that I don't hear it. I don't know what you're going to say, and Jasmine is completely divorced from what's going to come through, so that I would have confidence that the clarity of what was coming through was credible. And so the Fairns said they had already, I left out a part, they had already introduced themselves at that point, and they had said, we are SFFRN, just the consonants without any vowels in it at all. SFFRN. So, well, how are we going to say that? SFFRN. So they said use the vowels that are within the consonants. Anyway, sidetrack. So I said, well, we got to shorten that. We've got to shorten that. So they said, well, you can just call us Fairns. So that's how we got to Fairns. And so they said, get a crystal and focus on the crystal. Well, I got a cut glass crystal pyramid about this big, and we'll show that to you in a little bit. I still have it. A crystal pyramid, and I used that for many years to focus on that. And when I focused on that, the way the light shines in to the crystal, it's like it makes a door. It's like a white door that opens up, and then I'm walking down this hallway, and I have to look to the side because it's very intense energy. It's like burning white light energy. And the Fairns comes down the hall this way as I'm going down the hall the other way. And then all of a sudden, I'm on hold. I'm just in this room, it's full of light, and it's like somebody pushes a hold button, bang, and I'm on hold. And the Fairns speaks while I'm in this light-filled room, and they say what they're going to say. And then when they're done, they start back down the hallway in their direction, and I start back my direction and looking the other way so I don't get cooked on the way back and forth. And that's how it works. That's how it works.
What do you mean by cooked?
Well, I mean, if I try to look straight at the Fairns while we're changing places, well, they're changing their venue into my physical body to make vocal sounds. If I look straight at them, I think the body would just fry. The body would fry. I wouldn't be able to tolerate their rate of energy. So I have to focus my being in a different direction as they're passing me in that quote hallway. So it's a very fast. This is going to be hard to describe too, because it's fast, it's intense, it's bright, but it's a hot energy. It's just a completely different, people say, vibrational rate, which that's probably true. But I don't think it would be, if I look straight at them, I don't think it would be physically tolerable for me, for my body. I've come out of sessions before, and I'm just melting, pouring. I'm so hot I can hardly breathe. So their energy is really incredibly intense, and they have the same. This is interesting. They have the same multicolored, intense rainbow colors as the rainbow people when I was a little tiny kid. Only it's much more intense. It's much more sometimes energizing, very energizing, and sometimes it's very, very, very draining, depending upon the subjects that are talked about and discussed at the time.
Okay.
We give you great warm greetings. We have found this conversation, and you would say small talk, quite entertaining. We can see that you have some profound questions to ask. We would wish, however, to offer a thing. First, if you so choose.
Yes.
Much discussion has been around the topic of consideration, beneficial holism assessment. But the root, the foundation, and the base of all that functions in balance and in harmony in physical plane existence is operation based upon the first law of the Tao, the whole of the whole, what you call God, or the goddess. And that is all is one. Nothing that exists can be separated from anything else that exists, because all is one. And in order to function in the perfect imperfection of physical plane, all must be one. Now, what is the perfect imperfection? If there was not imperfection, there could not be growth. And the Tao, she self, above all things, is continual growth. And the Tao is also perfect. So, imperfection, meaning growth, is built into that perfect system. So, what do you have? Imperfection equals growth equals perfection. So, all that exists is essential to the whole of the whole, or it would not exist at all. This is an imperative realization that Terran humans needs recognize. All is one. The planet, the living systems, and all that exist within is one living being, a spark of the living Tao itself.
We would state, primarily, we welcome those who are skeptical. A certain amount of skepticism is beneficial when an individual is indeed searching for answers and for purpose. Now, we are a composite of two larger entities, approximately what you would call 3,000 individual soul patterns or people that no longer function or reincarnate in the physical plane, and we use this Jasmine as our conduit to speak and to teach those who are searching for truth and answers, for knowledge beyond what is measurable with the senses and the contemporary scientific devices of this time. Now, skepticism can incite curiosity. To begin with doubt can trigger further search for larger possibilities of function and interconnection between all things living and all things which function on a non-physical plane. So, it is good to have some who are skeptical, who will attempt to search for proof that there is direct link between that which is science and that which is called metaphysics. The skeptical people who have searched intently along these paths and in this direction have found actual scientific proof that advanced searching, advanced study leads to proof that science and metaphysics become one at an actual, calculable, provable level. Now, on the more spiritual side of this equation, we would state to the skeptics that it is not essential to believe how the information comes or through whom it comes. It is the information itself that is essential to learn and know. This, Jasmine, has been a vehicle, a conduit for many, many years, not consciously aware of what we state. So, the information is relayed through what you call a state of deep trance. This may sound weird. However, that is what is. Remember, it is not the vehicle or conduit that is in question. It is whether or not the information and accuracy of that which is offered can and is substantiated. So, that is what we have to say to those who are skeptical. Belief is not required. That which exists is and cannot be unmade, undone. Yes,